course, Absolute both lose their matches, if I have the mathematics correct. But we are into Champion Select, ladies and gentlemen. Azir and Ezreal so far going to be removed. Of course, 5.12 means that Ezreal a little bit strong at the moment with the Rune Glaive.
Yeah, I hear he's pretty good, but of course, Avant being on that blue side, you can see Sudden Fear straight away removing that off the board, not going to see play tonight in the first game.
Yeah, and very interestingly, of course, Christmas Tree is getting a lot of attention on the ban list here. Azir and Jace both removed from that mid laner. Of course, once top laner, played Hecarim in his last game, so he's more than happy to pick up some unconventional mid picks, but we'll see what Avant are going to ban away for their final ban here.
Yeah, so the only other mid champion we've really seen Christmas Trees play prolifically is that Victor. So if they are looking to completely target ban him out, they may go for that one, but it doesn't seem like they want to.
No, Kalista going to be removed. Of course, Chenny Boy's actually on the Sudden Fear lineup at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, playing in the AD carry position. So maybe understanding that Chenny Boy plays a little bit of Kalista there in solo queue, but Chenny Boy is sort of predominantly a mid lane.
Yeah, definitely. He might play a bit of Kalista, but Kalista as a champion, just super strong. Does need to be taken off the board before the game even begins. Causes a bit of a flight risk, opens up possibilities for other supports that can just work together in tandem and creates this ridiculous bot lane.
Yeah, and it looks like Chelby actually going to pick away Rek'Sai from a Pink Bomey. Of course, Chelby's been playing it a lot himself, but it seems that a Pink Bomey needs that early pressure in order to take control of a game. So, look, understandable pick away there from Porky.
Yeah, the big point of contention in this drafting, you can understand why they did first pick that, as you mentioned, a Pink Bomey. I believe it's his most played. Chelby worked very well around that early vision control, translates that well into the mid game, gets the rest of the teams ahead, or rest of his team ahead rather, and just starts to snowball the rest of the game out. So, I mean, it's a very smart pick, works well around vision control, around Chelby's play style, of that calm, methodical play.
It also prevents sort of the likes of something like an Evelynn, who's been seeing popping up a little bit more often into the meta, so it means that Tremor Sense fantastic against that champion. But we now have Sudden Fear going over a couple of picks, and I'd actually understand the Varus if that was to be locked in, but Chenny Boy is going to take away the Sivir here. Of course, Shiny, very much a Sivir player, so Chenny Boy looking to hop into the same seat.
Seems to be a Sudden Fear bandwagon style of champion. They have locked in that Sivir with the Alistar, and I would have been very surprised if they did lock in the Varus because the Sivir was available, the Kalista being banned. So the natural progression of AD carries goes from the Kalista towards the Sivir. Usually see maybe the Jinx in response, but we'll await that decision. We have a look at their bot lane completed from Sudden Fear. That is a ridiculously big bottom lane.
Yeah, well, especially as far as Engage is concerned.
Yeah.
Pop on the hunt, you can get that Alistar wherever you need him. Now Avant looking at what they want to put onto the Rift in response. I'd actually be excited if Warble picked up what could possibly be another Vayne pick here, but Kensty's currently hovering a Gangplank. That might be a shout out to you there, Rusty.
I wish he would lock that one in. More than you know, Max. More than you know.
I think I do know, Rusty. Don't you worry. Well, Chelby continuing to hover over this Shen. Of course, a couple more seconds on the clock. So Porky going to be playing that one in the top lane. Stand United now available, and that's double global already.
Yeah, Shen popping up massively in the meta lately, working so well around the mid-game strengths, the rotational plays. Everyone using those teleports. You've now got the option of Shen in the top lane, a Rek'Sai potentially doing a 1-3-1. They've all got the ability to move around the map very quickly now as a trio, and it's a very good start to the rest of their draft. They've got their front line, they've got their support set in stone. All they're really missing is that raw damage to back it up.
Yeah, of course, AD carry and mid lane still to come here from Avant, as Sudden Fear are looking for their next couple of picks. We'll see what they're going to go with here, as of course Alistar and Sivir means that you have a whole lot of different options that you can definitely go with. Of course, they can go for some form of Engage comp, but they can still utilize an AoE comp here from Sudden Fear, and we'll see what Christmas Trees does decide to go with. But Kensty actually locking away the Janna here away from Patu, has had some decent performances, 0-0-8 in the game that they actually won, but Robo-Santa looking to go back to a definite comfort pick and a Pink Bomber. We haven't seen his Lee Sin since last split, but it was pretty good.
It was his most played in that last split, so it's surprising to only see it now basically again after this entire split in the last day, in the last game. So Sudden Fear gonna pick that one up. A bit of early aggression, matches that of a Rek'Sai, of course, just has a little bit more damage to boot, especially around that level 3 mark. The Sonic Wave resonating strike, using that extra damage, taking away from health, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, fair bit of early game pressure here as well as Robo Santa there. With the Maokai in the top lane, can build that Righteous Glory, get himself into some sort of state where he can engage fights pretty early on. We'll see whether Sudden Fear utilize that one. Of course, saving Christmas Tree's pick until last. Destiny hovering over a Sejuani is an interesting option. Not entirely sure whether they're going to be going with that one, but what are you expecting out of Avant here? I'm seeing Twisted Fates available, something like that. A Vayne from Warble went 9-0-5 on that champion when he played it last.
Yeah, now Warble more so looking for that hyper carry option, potentially the Vayne, the Jinx, maybe even the Caitlyn because they've got that Janna already locked in. And I was going to say Kensti, maybe the Victor because he's looking for raw damage, but we've seen that guy play so many different champions. You never really know what he's going to actually lock in until he has. He has settled though. Yeah,
I find it interesting the fact that Vladimir was banned away. It is his most played champion, equal with LeBlanc in 2 plays.
Yeah.
So he's played a whole lot of everything. Second time that he's on Victor, this time this split. So we'll see how he does. Of course, his previous performance on Victor, pretty damn strong.
Yeah, Victor, very strong champion, and of course, Kensti, a very good mid laner, has been doing a lot of work for his team, hyper carrying, as you can see by the Vladimir ban, respecting his strength, but getting that Victor, the only champion that I expected Christmas Trees to default to. They've saved mid for their last pick, so could be potentially picked away from his possibilities, given that he already has 2 bans.
Yeah, I like the fact that the Azir and, of course, the Jace taken away, now the Victor, so his 3 most impactful champions that we've seen him on. Of course, Lulu is another option that Christmas Trees has gone to, but hasn't necessarily netted them any results. In fact, 0 results. He's only 1 on Jace. Of course, 1 game makes that statistic relatively easy to remember. Cassiopeia, though, is going to be the hover here at the moment for Sudden Fear. Christmas Tree's looking to take that into the mid lane, and he has locked it in, so now lots of short range on both sides of the Rift.
Yeah, lots of short range and high damage is the most important part. So when the team fights do erupt from both of these sides, just expect chaos everywhere and not just the chaos storm. There's going to be damage left, right, and center. You've got the... I didn't mean to make you laugh on that
was
one.
Fantastic.
The Cassiopeia there in the mid lane, hyper carry to match that of Kensti on the Victor. And then the big discrepancy essentially going to be that Vayne into the Sivir in terms of direct 1v1 damage. But when you look at a team fight, the Sivir can match that quite well.
Yeah, the team fight and engage, and especially the early power here from Sudden Fear. They've got sort of a lot of early spikes, not necessarily in the Cassiopeia, more of late game insurance, but I'm looking at the Maokai and the Alistar that can really get in your face, mix things up, and create problems here for Avant. Sudden Fear's team combat, to me, actually looks quite alright.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage mitigation, a lot of soak in the front line, and then they've got those short range carries to just be directly behind them, stand in the safety zone essentially of the Maokai, and just put down some raw damage to really back the rest of that team up. All in all, it is basically deciding that they're going to be a team fight comp. They're just going to press that big go button, that Sivir on the hunt, and just run them down here from Avant.
Yeah, and we'll see whether they can make it work. What it looks like to me is sort of these 2-threat comps coming out. Of course, Shen and Maokai are not going to be doing too much damage from that top lane, but with the Cassiopeia and the Sivir, you've got lots of AoE damage coming out of these guys, whereas Victor and Vayne, that is so much single target burst with a little bit of overlap there from the Death Ray and the Chaos Storm, but it looks like they've both got clear ideas, but it's just how they're going to execute that's going to change this one. We'll see whether Sudden Fear can get these big fights started.
Yeah, you look at both teams and you do have to keep in mind it is very execution heavy, of course. The single target from Avant, they do need to focus the right targets in that respect. And then you have a look at Sudden Fear, they need to get the engages. But just to touch quickly back, the fact that they've got Vayne, you might be seeing them attempt to lane swap, get some 1v1s in favor of Avant by a little bit more, just get some levels discrepancies, and then switch back so you can try and get the matchup with Sivir once you start getting items. Because you find your strength as Vayne in that 1v1, not a 2v2.
Yeah, and of course, you can get some sneaky kills with some flash pulverizers there with the headbutt back into the team as well if you are going to lane that 2v2 early on. So, of course, Sivir and Alistar probably looking to try and get that lane early on, but I could understand a lane swap. And is there other benefits across the Rift here for either side as far as top laners, maybe with a jungle follow potentially here or anything like that?
So I'd say top laners being considered, they're fairly even. They just fulfill different purposes. We've seen Shen start with that Q and just be able to heal with the Vorpal Blades whilst jungling, neither of them getting very low. But the Maokai is quite self-sufficient, has a lot of base damage with the saplings, can do a jungle camp by himself and find a little experience advantage. So in the raw the lane swap, you're not going to see a direct advantage for a particular player or a particular team. They're just going to be going a whole buddy system essentially from Avant Garde, whereas you see complete different style from Sudden Fear.
Yeah, Sudden Fear looking to have Robo Santa just chilling out on his own, running through his jungle, using those saplings. And of course, once he hits that level 2, the Arcane Smash, lots of AoE damage, lots of abilities to clear these creeps out. And he can teleport wherever he wants at that point, possibly with a level advantage. And it might be that Avant don't necessarily want to cop that 1v1 just because there is that opportunity for the early level advantage. But Porky's been so strong in the top lane. I could understand if he just wants to go to that lane anyway. More than happy to take Robo Santa on.
Yeah, definitely. Porky a super strong laner. So don't be surprised if they do look for the just raw laning skills and try and use their mechanical advantage perhaps just to get themselves a lead, turn that into a victory for the rest of the game. And you're right, having that Shen advantage gives essentially 2 teleports to just the 1. They are able to translate that into some strengths, especially on top of a Vayne, if you look at the bot lane 2v2. Being able to give that shield while she does the single target damage provides an advantage, not just the teleport gank. You are having some instant relevance irrespective of if it gets cancelled.
Not to mention the fact that if the teleports do go off at the same time, of course, the Stand United plus the teleport there from Robo Santa, Robo has no other way to get back to the top lane, whereas Porky, he can just teleport straight back up there, continue to get farm, continue to get experience, and possibly even get ahead in this lane. So we'll see whether as soon as they hit that level 6 mark, whether there's going to be fights breaking out across this map, just because Avant probably want to utilize that advantage at some point.
Yeah, it does feel like this Avant side are a little bit more skirmish heavy than just raw team fighting.
Yeah.
They want to get their lead through skirmishes, translate that lead into a team fighting strength. They're not going to be that good at fighting when they are behind in gold. They're going to be very good at team fighting if they are ahead in gold. That's the big difference right now between this Avant Garde side. Whereas you look at Sudden Fear, and when it comes to team fighting, it doesn't matter how far behind, how far ahead they are. They can team fight very well.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this game as well, and one thing that I want to mention is the junglers. Of course, Chelby has been sort of the heart and soul of this Avant Garde lineup for a long time. He's shown a lot of improvement, sort of used to be this ham lord that would just go in on every Sonic wave. Now, calmly playing back, of course, had some fantastic Sejuani games, able to scale into the late game. Chelby's really looked a whole lot better. But a Pink Bomi, he was managing to get victories for Sudden Fear last split, hasn't quite managed to this time around, and we'll see whether he can get aggressive now back on this comfort pick, this massive comfort pick on the Lee Sin, or whether Chelby, back to his early aggression style on this Rek'Sai, can really carry it through, and whether this affects the mid lane, because Kensti and Christmas trees, they're the ones that get advantages.
Yeah, Kensti's generally a slightly aggressive person compared to Christmas trees perhaps, but having the top lane roots, you'll find Christmas trees does like to trade a lot. But you look at the junglers and you think that is where the beginning of this game, translating to the mid game, does rely on very heavily. Of course, a Pink Bomi having the highest kill participation of his team throughout both splits, I believe, has been doing a lot of work for their successes wherever they can find it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But we are ready to get onto the riff, so let's put it over to the caster desk with Pastry Time and Spawn.
Thank you very much, Atlas and Rusty. And yes, my name is Julian Pastry Time Carr. Joining me this time is Jake Spawn Tiberi, and it's the final day of Week 7 of the OPL regular season.
Yeah, and it kicks off with quite a good game. Avant taking on Sudden Fear for a chance to, I guess, keep their third place spot hopes alive. So we'll have to see whether Avant able to continue to dominate, because last week they looked relatively good moving into this week, also able to pick up a win. And, you know, Avant, they're a very consistent team. They kept their whole team together. They've played really standard around the riff, with maybe the exception of their mid laner, Kenstu, who just plays whatever the heck he wants. But excited to see if they're able to, I guess, weather the storm that is Sudden Fear. Of course, Sudden Fear, nothing to lose. They know their position right now, just looking for the upset. And Avant, a lot of pressure on them to be able to get it done.
Yeah, and kind of the theme of the evening, and certainly of this game, is that every game matters at this point, when it's literally one day left until playoffs start, and that's going to be in a week or so. You really do have to try and scramble for the last position. And Avant, they certainly look for third. Tough opponents on either side. You have to think with Legacy or Chiefs going to be the opponent, depending on third or fourth positioning. But Avant, they've looked good, certainly, I agree. Apart from maybe the first few weeks, things have looked a little shaky, and honestly, it's been Shelby and the rest of his squad that's really just leapt forward in, I don't know, the past 5 weeks or so.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that Shelby and Destiny are the two keys to this team. You know, Destiny, if you look over his line, he's only had 20 deaths the entirety of this split. He's been a very consistent player, is one of the big initiators as well, loves to play that Alistair. He's picked it up 5 times. Back on Janna this time around, and, you know, when you look at someone like Kenzie, it's just an evolution of a player. He's got the highest kill participation. The team gets behind him. This isn't the aggressive Lee Sin main that we're used to, Yuzora or Space Kitten or whatever the heck he was known by years ago. This is Shelby. He's a much more rounded jungler, and very good in team fights and skirmishes. So he's dangerous, honestly, heading into the playoffs.
He is, and I feel like he's in similar form that he looked at the end of last year when they actually won the final there at PAX Avant. So Shelby's looking very strong, and for me, the team sort of lives or dies by his play.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we keep making comparisons between the team that won everything last year and this team. And, you know, that can only mean good things. Porky, once again, looking like that rock in the top lane. No one can really bully him out. Kenzie is so unpredictable. He's like very controlled in laning phase and very aggressive in team fights. So it's kind of hard to gauge where he's at because he hits the switch so quickly. And then, as we said, Shelby, their playmaker, one of their shot callers, just gets a lot of stuff done. And their target prioritization and how they fight little team fights is what makes them win games.
It does, but Sudden Fear, like you said, are going to be looking for the upset. Big eyes on Bomey's list in here to get aggressive and be that gank-happy jungler he was pretty much all of last split and some of this split as well. But we are onto the Rift now for our opening game of Day 2 of Week 7 of the OPL as Avant looking for third and Sudden Fear just fighting for momentum.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, they're going to be up against the best challenger team. We've seen a couple of games in the last few games, and there are definitely some strong ones out there, but Destiny might be in some trouble.
Yeah, can I spot all 5 members of Sudden Fear moving through? Or drop a trinket wall, but it will get cleared. Part 2 with the final slap in the first CS.
Yeah, with a big punch. That Alistair skin, very intimidating. Look at his horns.
He's really, I mean, Destiny certainly knows. He's played a lot of this champion and this skin, I believe, as well. So, funny to think that an Alistar player, obviously Alistar, arguably the best support in the meta right now, but it feels like whenever Destiny doesn't get Alistar, he doesn't go for Nautilus or Annie. He just goes straight back to disengage style champions like Janna.
Yeah, he certainly does. A little bit of Morgana thrown in there as well. So I agree with you. Is a difference right now. I think it's how Warble likes to play, honestly. Janna Vayne is one of those lanes that you get a free BF sword. All of a sudden, the On the Hunt as well as the Tumble just give you a lot of AD amplifiers. So you're able to go that straight attack speed route that has been so popular and that Warble has shown. And his last Vayne game was quite good. So we'll have to see whether he's able to continue to make it work. And this game, I think it was just that Rek'Sai was a lot higher priority. You know, Shelby's played it 6 times. Pink Bomey's played it 5 times. This is Shelby's 7th time on the wrist. So they definitely prefer that jungler. So taking that away is a good thing for Avant.
Oh, can't fault them at all. I think Rek'Sai's an absolutely fantastic champion, especially in the hands of Shelby. And speaking of, he'll start here on the Krugs, go into the rev up with a bit of help there from his bottom lane. And looks like Bomey's going to do the same, at least on the same side of the map, going Gromp into blue buff as Kenzie and Christmas Trees face off in the mid lane.
Yeah, and you know, this is just going to be very standard coming across. Maokai doing his camp. Shen didn't opt to do so. Shen, of course, can take a camp, but a little bit more difficult level 1. And what I want to watch this game is because Shelby is back on the Rek'Sai and there is a Maokai in the game, is how many times Shelby needlessly fights Maokai.
Oh, Pink Bomey, though, going for the invade. Actually finds Shelby in the jungle. We'll get the hit down. Tempest will miss. Good on Burrow will keep Shelby safe. But Bomey puts his stamp on this game already.
Yeah, so able to get an early invade. Actually, a little bit of a misplay from Bomey. Could have, I guess, flashed and then Tempest instead of going for it in the other way around because Shelby was always flashing out of there. But in the end, he gets a red buff, gets a successful invade, and that's not first blood, but first little advantage over to Sudden Fear.
Yeah, might be able to 3-buff Shelby here as well. Can run over to his other buff and take that. In fact, did Bomey not even get his blue buff? Did he just run Gromp to red?
Yeah, Gromp to red. It's one of the, I'm not going to say cheesy, but it's a very aggressive strategy you might see out of a solo queue jungler pastry.
Well, that might fit Bomey's profile. Here is Christmas Trees facing up against Kenzie. Gets the poison land. Twin Fang's going to start to come down. Fighting tooth and nail here as Kenzie gets quite low there in the mid lane, but Christmas Trees does not pull the trigger on the all-in.
Yeah, and Christmas Trees has Ignite, which is just so dangerous right now for Kenzie, so you're going to have to be careful with that as Porky also taking damage.
Yeah, Sudden Fear, we talked about it. Nothing to lose here in this game, so they are fighting to begin this lane. And Robosense, we missed this, honestly, at the start of the game, but back on the Maokai once again.
Yeah, so able to get in there on his most played champion. He's actually seen a lot of bans against his Maokai so far, so I agree. Certainly a power pick coming through right now, and it honestly looked like Porky underestimated how much auto attack damage coupled with creep harass that Maokai does early game. So that was a little bit of a miscalculation, but lane now reversing. Robo in a very good position.
Yeah, Robo going to keep this here as Porky tries to get what he can. Instead, meets a fistful of tree there as Maokai gets some damage down. Part 2, nice combo there on the bottom side. Warble will get Boomerang Bladed, but actually going to trade the Silver Bolt in onto Alistar. Now turning it onto Chenny Boy. Looking for the last auto, does not find it. But Avant, the bottom lane, seems to be the only lane right now they're actually getting an aggressive edge in.
Yeah, and you know, this is a substitute. Chenny Boy, of course, has played mid lane for Sudden Fear this season, but first time I've seen him in the AD carry position, gone with one of the more difficult AD carries in Silver, you know, mechanically intense. And
very intense.
Yep.
mechanics intensify when you play Sivir as Warble on the actual mechanically intensive champion Vayne. I agree, he has actually shown some nice Vayne games. It's been a while, I feel like, since we've seen the Warble, play the Ashe, play the Sivir.
Yeah, he's tried to mix it up. He's got 5 Sivir games, a couple of Ashe games. He's got some Jinx and Caitlyn in there as well, but Vayne has been something you like to pull out.
Yeah, towered over here, onto Porky. Twisted advance lands. Q will land as well. Good taunt from Porky. Flash not enough, though. Q will follow, and Bomi gets first blood.
Yeah, so able to pick up first blood in the top lane. Porky goes down, and that is an early advantage over to RoboSanta. He's already double the CS of Shen, and now with that gank, going to be able to shove out a huge wave, get back, and get a free purchase in there.
You can see Shelby trying to does get the Scuttle Crab. Sorry, looking for a gank mid now. Here to help Kenzie out. Going to swoop into the mid side. Christmas Trees does have his flash. We'll get the poison down. Actually going to try and take him on here. Ignite goes down. Shelby's going to fall. Christmas Trees, wonderful 1v2.
Yeah, just held his ground. This is what we're used to seeing out of Cassiopeia players. No fear against the gank. Uses the Ignite. Picks up the kill. Grabs a blue buff at only 5 minutes into the game. And Kenzie, all of a sudden, the lane goes from being difficult to now being all-out dangerous for him to stick around.
Yeah, Tear of the Goddess now finished for Christmas Trees. Nice and early, so we'll get that stacking. And Christmas Trees has actually backed twice. He had Doran's rings there, which maybe Shelby wasn't quite expecting. But CS being even is nice, but that kill's really going to help out Cassio.
Yeah, it certainly is. Kenzie did the right thing. He held the wave, made sure a lot of creeps died. So he might have an experience advantage right now, but they need to look to use the level of 6 if that is the case, because otherwise mid lane going to be difficult to survive.
Back down to the bottom side, you can see Warble and Destiny teaming up here, actually doing a nice job holding the wave where they can, turn into nice MCS. And Jenny Boy on the Sivir there, actually struggling 10 CS behind now against the Vayne.
Yeah, and Bomi hadn't even taken his own blue buff.
No.
That's really weird. Left it up for a long time. Now a huge experience advantage. He's halfway through level 5 against Shelby's level 4.
Bomi hilariously, good poison down here as well. Christmas Trees with level 6 and the blue buff that did belong to Shelby once upon a time. Putting the screws in here to Kenzie. No flash though as Shelby goes for the revisit, but it's just too dangerous.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to go for this because, Cassiopeia will be able to... I guess if they go from opposite sides, there's a chance they get the kill very quickly. But there's also a chance that Kenzie just outright dies right now.
Yeah, we saw what happened in the last one. Shelby just died in the 1v2, and then Cassio went back to base here. Christmas Trees going to continue holding strength in the lane. Good poison harass down there as well, going on to Kenzie. And it's so funny to see Bomi play like this. Not that he's not aggressive, but this is basically how Shelby used to play back in the day.
Yeah, it certainly is. They're going again.
Teleport down. Now Shelby does not like this at all. Going to eat way too much damage. Stand United falls down, but Bomi's going to pick up that kill. And Sudden Fear are all over this rift.
Yeah, that was a way too late Stand United coming through from Shen. It needed to probably be a good couple of seconds earlier because there was no way they weren't collapsing directly onto the jungler. He's so squishy at this stage of the game, but there was just nothing they can do. Shelby falls for a second time. Bomi picks it up again, and 2-0-0 right now for the Lee Sin, going to mean that he's very fed at the early part of the game.
And I believe that longsword signals Warrior here for Bomi, so Dragon's going to go down as well. Sudden Fear will collect all of the early game advantages. They sit one Dragon up and 1,000 gold ahead as well.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about Lee Sin, is that if you're going to play him, you may as well just go Warrior into Sightstone and make your early game presence known. Invade very heavily. Try and get the other jungler behind, because realistically he doesn't scale the way that Rek'Sai does. Rek'Sai has global presence on the map, has a knock-up, very spammable, and the ability, I guess, to use his sight to give his team an advantage, whereas Lee Sin really has his early game pressure, and then once 50-minute hits, he has the chance of the one kick coming through to win the game.
Yep.
But apart from that, you just need to play to the champion's strength, so I love the fact that he's going towards the Warrior.
And we talked about junglers being important in this matchup, how Shelby has looked so good, but very controlled, can be aggressive or be defensive when he needs to. Bomi is really only aggressive as a player, because he does finish his Warrior in chat with this Skirmisher Saber on top of it already. And you can see right now, at least early on, it's just been all Sudden Fear, just because of the jungle matchup.
Yeah, it certainly has. He's had a successful dive, and really, with the exception of Chris turning around that 1v2, everything has been Sudden Fear, being proactive around the map, and that's not good news right now for Avant because they're slowly falling behind, actually quite rapidly. It's 1,000 gold at only 10 minutes in. They're in some trouble.
Yeah, Boomer going to look again for the blue buff. Might find Porky instead. Does get the kick down. Just follows immediately. Doesn't even think about it as Porky turns around for a nice trade.
Yeah, takes a fair amount of damage out of Bomi there, so he does have to be careful if he goes back into that lane. But once again, his presence is felt. Shelby, 2 kills two deaths now, hasn't been able to really get around and be that early game jungle that we know him to be. But on the other side of the rift, Bomi continuing to do what he does best. He's a First Blood King and being able to impact the map.
He is the First Blood King. Won't get the blue buff though. That will go over to Kensti as Warble and Destiny continuing to have good things happen in their lane. They've got that CS lead. Still playing up and aggressively, and actually the first backs have completed. Bilgewater Cutlass there for Warble and a BF Sword for Chenny Boy.
Yeah, so Chenny Boy, he's going to make Warble play against the minions now, you have to think. Just continue to shove it out. Though he's going for trades. This is a little bit of a trap for Chenny.
I like what Warble's doing, just playing aggressive in the minion wave, forcing Chenny to trade with him.
Yeah, he doesn't really have to though. None of the creeps are going to die because of how big the minion wave is. Just let it hit your turret. As soon as it neutralizes, just chunk it out.
Yep. We'll see as they pull that back if that's exactly what they want to do. In the top side though, Burmy and Robo Santa are setting up a rush bait, but not going to fall for that one is Porky, who's keeping the wave nice and close to his particular turret.
Well, his lane's reversing, so eventually he does have to go out.
Ooh, immediately Shadow dashes away from just Robo. Didn't see Bomi, just Robo Santa. You can tell Avant, they know it's been an aggressive early game. They just want to play a bit more carefully here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, exactly right. And Robo actually gives Porky a little bit of a favor there. Start shoving the lane back in one more time. But you have to think that Chelby right now has finally caught back up a little bit in levels, but needs to get the first successful gank, looking towards the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing a lot of farming. Bomi's been active in the lane, so he's been active in his jungle. But right now, I can see, as far as those trades go, they've kept up even in farm across the jungles, but Bomi's just got those 2 kills. And those 2 deaths, I believe, are pinned onto Shelby.
Yeah, exactly right. But one thing that you do note is the fact that he has caught up in experience, and that's just because Bomi hasn't really been farming much at all. So going to have to be careful that he doesn't let Shelby back in the game. Going for some more action in the mid lane.
Yeah, Bomi going to look in for Kensi, who does have both his summoners and a blue buff, so going to be quite tricky to gank Victor. We talk about ganking Cassios and the danger of her ultimate. Victor, kind of the same deal with his.
Yeah, certainly has a lot of turnaround potential, especially the fact that a warrior did come out. So not a huge effective health pool right now, as Hatu and Chenny Boy need to be careful.
Yeah, actually leaving the lane to clear a ward out, but Shelby will swoop in and take that trinket ward away. Do get a pink ward out of it, so not too bad as Warble. He's just sort of relaxing on the bottom side, keeping the wave there and farming away happily.
Yeah, exactly right. He's doing what Banes do best. As we might have a fight. No, everyone backs off.
Oh, nobody wants to fight over a ward. Destiny with his sights and just going to put one back down. A Warble again, going to keep the wave here and farm till his heart's content.
Yeah, and this is what Bane's lanes are all about, just being able to free farm, get to your first 1 item where you're a duelist, 2 items where you're fairly decent in team fights, especially if you go with something like... Wow.
Warble really wants to fight, apparently. Still getting CS, so doing a nice job with the balance there, but I do like that Warble sort of come into his own, playing a bit more, I'm going to say selfish style carries like Van.
Yeah, this is his second game on it, and his first game was very good. I honestly am kind of the opposite. I like when Avant play around their top side of the map. I think that Porky's just such a dangerous top laner, especially if he has something like the On The Hunt to come out of Sivir, and that they actually play really intelligent League of Legends, so their use of Ashe has also been really good. So, can he play the carry style? Of course he can. He's a very good mechanical AD carry coming out as Warble, but the dangerous part of Avant for me has always been the top 3 of their map.
I agree, and I think even though Warble is maybe playing more of the Vayne-style champions, you can tell right now, just based on the action, they're very self-sufficient lane, and that's been the change, I feel like, from Avant, from this split to last split.
Yeah, it certainly is. They've got a lane that you can completely ignore in the bottom half of the map. Destiny and Warble, if anything, create action in other lanes. They're like the ones that get up and go everywhere else. I kind of explain them as like the jungle support duo in the bottom lane, because they like to get around quickly in the map, especially when they have the Alistar start trying to facilitate Kensti's lane a little bit more. And Chelby's been busy counter-jungling this game, which is something that he usually does. He likes to find the jungler and try and fight them, which means that the Warble and the Destiny are very good at collapsing and helping him out.
Yeah, and this time Shelby wants to avoid the warrior leads in, but at least keeping tabs on him by clearing out different sides of the jungle. Porky's caught up in CS there as well, so he's looking okay. And Bane actually went back and bought floated the Ruined King, so good in the lane, but this does trigger the second Dragon for Sudden Fear.
Yeah, Dragon going over, but Robo in a lot of trouble right now.
Not many places to go for the Maokai. Does flash out, but going to get tunneled on top of the Umbari. Will land there. Porky going to line up a dash. Doesn't have it. Ulti and Righteous Glory. And have to get Robo Santa alive. Quite tanky already, 14 minutes in.
Yeah, but Flash burn, so that might be a repeat visit coming through there. Second Dragon secured for Sudden Fear, but you can see gold already shrinking for a team that is 0-3. you don't really expect it to only be 400 gold in the lead as they try and siege down mid.
Yeah, and this is nice from Sudden Fear actually pressuring the mid lane. Christmas Tree's throwing out zones of control there as well with the miasma. Don't get the tower, shouldn't be too much longer, but Warble responding on the bottom side by taking this turret.
Yeah, and this is dangerous. Actually, Kenny Boy going back down there by himself, and they have Alistair in the vision, so if he shows up anywhere near this creep wave, Warble will outright kill Kenny Boy now.
Yeah, Warble going to get the turret. Chenny, knowing that, is going to back away, though, does not want to get into a tussle with a Blade of the Ruined King Vayne. And Warble has really rocketed ahead in CS. He's almost 40 ahead already.
Yeah, he just held that wave, and Kenny Boy got the heck out of dodge. Didn't want to go up against the Blade of the Ruined King. Actually going towards the Infinity Edge straight away, Chenny. But that means that he is in a little bit of danger right now of being 1v1, because not really much can be done right now against Warble.
No, I like the brush check there as well from Warble scrying off. Wanting to see if Chenny was waiting there to collect some CS, and we'll get the 1v1 that he was after, but instead they'll just back away. We'll get the turret in the bottom side, so as it turns out, we actually trade turrets. Top tower for bottom tower.
Yeah, so Porky not able to keep his turret alive there, and you see a couple of daggers. That will be a PD built up for Warble next, so going for the late game scaling. I was going to say, there's one time I wouldn't mind seeing the purple build out. It is this game. Of course, that's the Youmuu's Ghostblade coming through for Warble. The reasoning is just because a Pink Bomi is strong at this point in the game, and you really need someone to be able to go in the mid game. That would normally be your jungler, but Chelby's held down relatively well, so Warble could be that mid game threat whilst Kensty continues to scale. But right now, they're just going to have all late game. They're investing very deep on it.
Yeah, you can see they swap their dual into the top lane as well, so Warble going to continue getting farm there. Porky, though, struggling in the bottom side. Looks like he's about to get dived.
Yeah, it certainly does. You know, they show the Pink Bomi as well, so they're going to grab a second turret. This will give Sudden Fear back a fairly healthy lead. Might even be able to finish up that Infinity Edge and get Chenny Boy right back into this game.
And I like to play a lot from Sudden Fear. They're using that Sivir, rotating her around. Chenny's like, you know what? Lane didn't go so well, but that doesn't mean I can't add damage to these turrets early on.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that Sivir's always done well, is farm like an absolute monster as they go in.
Porky. Very cheeky. Just throws a ball blade at Chenny Boy. In fact,
Tier 2 going to go down.
Yeah, have to respond here. Chenny's just going to take the turret. Bomi with the Warrior as well. Not too bad on the AD damage front. Parchy going to tank it up. He's taking some damage, but two towers go down as Bomi just dives in, but he'll dash his way out with a safeguard.
Yeah, Bomi doesn't really care at this point of the game, and you know, they lost two turrets right then for nothing. Maybe a little bit of farm onto Vayne, but Robo not really intimidated by Warble right now. And that turret's so healthy.
Gonna have to be careful. Warble definitely does good damage here against the tank. It's part of the reason I like to swap here. Back into pop the ulti going 1v1. Oh, hit the tower for the next order, but Robo Santa gonna get flushed on. A Warble with the tower dive takes it out.
Yeah, so he's able to burn both summoner spells there, but in the end, Robo Santa does fall down. Warble with a very good play there means that they will equalize 3 outers potentially if he's able to get that top one, as Kensty was able to take out mid. Pink Bomi, though, looking for maybe a play.
Yeah, could potentially kill Vayne. Doesn't have an ulti. Going to look in here, but the 2-level deficit might be a problem. Going to try and kick him into the wall. Does get the reveal on. Kicks down, but Stange United will follow through. Porky going to chase in. Will he go for the dash? Does not go straight for the taunt. But Warble going to keep pushing. They need to take this turret.
Yeah, but in the mid lane, it's being responded to. So Sudden Fear, honestly, right now, playing the map incredibly well. They defend their top outer. They chase Warble off a little bit, and they respond very well with the mid-inner turret, so 2-turret advantage still over to Sudden Fear.
And Avant, no, they can't push because Robo does have that teleport, and Porky's already in the top side, used his ulti, so good transition there from Sudden Fear to take the mid lane tower after Avant had, and as all said and done, it's actually 4-2 up in turrets for Sudden Fear, and still 1,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, and now they're in a position to fight the next Dragon fight incredibly well. You know, they've got an Infinity Edge Zerka Greaves coming through there, Abyssal Scepter finish up for Chris, as well as some armor onto Robo Santa, and if any win condition exists right now for Sudden Fear, it is the 5th one. It's looming very early on in the game. And there's not really a power spike right now to speak of out of Avant. Maybe Victor has started to roll, but Shen, he's sitting on a Spirit Visage, and everyone else still trying to scale.
And he said it already. Avant are investing into the late game with the Phantom Dancer Vayne, with the scaling from the Victor and the Shen. But right now, that unfortunately doesn't help them because they need to try and fight for this next dragon.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, 3 dragons is a lot to give up for free at the start of the map, especially if you're losing out on turrets as well. You would expect turrets to be going in your favor if you traded correctly, but right now, Avant, they've fallen a little bit behind through some sluggish early game, but you would expect if this game goes anywhere near 30 minutes, they will continue to scale up.
Yep, absolutely. Is Kensti still doing good, has the Abyssal Scepter, and he's Mark 2 Hex Core, I want to say, so has 2 evolution points there with the blue one, and Avant getting in position to contest the Dragon, potentially, as it is back in 25 seconds. But we've talked about it already, Sudden Fear. They're the ones that not only want to fight for this next Dragon, that are prepared to fight for it.
Yeah, they are, but Bomi...
That's not a good catch for them. Bomi is going to have to safeguard away. Shelby flashes in, but a good ulti by Christmas Tree is going to deny their kill. But that might be just enough pressure to give Avant their first Dragon.
Yeah, it looks like it might be their case. They are trying to get into position right now, Avant. 3 seconds until it's available, but Rift Scuttler has been secured right now for Sudden Fear, and it's still a dangerous fight.
They have the Shrine, they've got the Vision. We'll get down there as Patu and Chenny clear out a ward just on the top right-hand corner of the screen. Still moving in, they actually will start it up here. Both top laners a bit awkwardly, can't really teleport first, but they are going to start it. Robo goes once, they are going to dive in for it. Porky not joining it, he's got his ulti, but Chenny Boy's popped his ultimate, they're going in, but they actually really just want the Dragon. Christmas Trees teaming up for that damage, but here comes the counterport. Dragon resets, Porky's here.
Yeah, Dragon reset. Porky arrives. You know, good idea coming through there, but we'll see whether Bomi can steal.
Can they get the smite down? They're going to strong on them off the buff. Bomi does get the Q down, but Dragon's regenerating even more health as Avant now have reset the leashes.
Yeah, and Bomi's tanking it up still.
Don't take the Dragon. Position. He does a lot of damage. Bomi wants it, but too much health back already. Warble's going to move in. They can't get on top of it. And Shelby, oh, Bomi, is he going to go in? He gets the Q, gets condemned away, though. And Shelby does secure the Dragon for his team as Chenny Boy gets chunked out. Kensti flash Death Rays and just takes him off the Rift.
Yeah, in the end, Avant able to pick up their first Dragon. They get a kill in response as well. And now all the members of Sudden Fear need to back away because they are so low. Didn't have Chris's ult. Didn't have the health to go in on Bomi and make a play. And now you see the big push coming through mid lane.
Yeah, we talked about the mid game for Sudden Fear trying to get to that 5th Dragon, but stifling a lot of that development after that steal away there by Shelby and Sudden Fear. I felt like they had the position there, Spawn.
Yeah, it looked like they just didn't want to pull the trigger with such a low jungler, and I think that Chenny also took a little bit too much poke. You know, off the back end you saw it was only one spell rotation that took him off the Rift in the end, so ultimately a pretty smart decision to try and disengage, just wasn't effective enough to get everyone out.
We talked about it before, Victor seemingly good at almost every point in the game. Kensti doing a lot of work in that little exchange.
Yeah, he certainly was. He had the poke coming through there and was able to, I guess, because Chris didn't have the ultimate available, just outlast. But Sudden Fear, they're still not done. They want to continue to pressure the map.
Yeah, going through this turret. Wobble actually in the bottom lane split pushing means that Sudden Fear will get the first few hits on it, but they'll all group together now. Porky can rejoin. He's got his ultimate, just sitting in base, waiting to see if anything eventuates. And Sudden Fear sort of seeing that Avant are showing strength and grouping around those turrets will back away, and Avant, with a nice push on the top side, get themselves the turret.
Yeah, they had a huge stacked up minion wave, but it was started by Porky up there, so able to push through and secure that objective as well. Bomi going all in on this mid game has actually opted for a Sunfire cape.
That's interesting. Yeah, he's definitely got Warrior already, so that's not a Cinderhog.
No,
he's going for an actual Sunfire
and he's got a chain vest,
yeah.
so unless he's going for like a no HP, I guess, Thornmail, it's definitely going to be a Sunfire coming through there. And, you know, it's a lot more mid-game strength. I don't know whether I like the pickup, but I guess, once again, this is what Lee Sin does. He all-ins on your mid-game, so he's either going to win or lose in the next couple of minutes because the item will start to scale up.
Yeah, we've talked about 30 minutes being the key timer there for Avant. They're starting to approach that 7 minutes away to the exact moment in time here in the game, and they're actually already ahead by about 500 gold. It's not a massive lead, but given that Sudden Fear at one point, we're up almost 3,000 gold. Avant have done a good job pulling this game back. Yeah,
and you know, they're still down a turret. So right now you would have to say a little bit more gold potentially on Patu and Bomi than what you have on Shelby, but you see the Vayne, and wow, Warble is definitely ahead of Chenny Boy.
Yeah, Warble's had a really good game here. 50 CS ahead. Phantom Dancer, Blade of the Ruined King already completed for this Vayne and likely moving in for something like an Infinity Edge here. Warble for me, we talked about junglers looking good. It was Bomi in the first 10 minutes here for Sudden Fear. But the last 10 have honestly been Kensti and a lot of Warble.
Yeah, exactly right. Warble is just stuck in his lane and continues to farm up, and he's become such a threat right now. Means that Baron, very real possibility with the Silver Bolts coming through. A lot of kite ability because of the Janna, and you know, they're going to have to dive for him because he is the member right now that has got going. As Kensti does a lot of damage.
Yeah, just poking out there, and Oh, Jenny Boy actually going to pull the trigger on the ulti. Christmas Tree's looking for a good flash around the NATO. RoboSanta's here as well. Kensey's going to get Stand United to. Sheng will join the fight there. Porky will move it in, but Kensey gets kicked away, takes too much damage. Porky, headbutt over a wall, can't get back in. They'll flash forward and take out Kensey. Shelby will be the next. Now Destiny's going to go down, although they are going to tower dive. The Boomerang Blade lands. Chenny gets a double kill. Chasing Porky and Warble, they don't get it, but Sudden Fear, 3 kills for 0.
And all of a sudden, Baron is open. They have the Cassiopeia. It's 24 minutes into the game, and Sudden Fear pull the trigger on their mid-game comp. We mentioned the fact that AV needed to scale, and they're going to be able to secure the biggest objective on the Rift.
Blue buff Cassio here. Bomi not a whole lot of health, but his smite will come up soon, and that's about all they need. Porky and Warble going to try and make a heroic 2v5 under the Baron pit. Porky gets locked up though. Warble actually starting to poke on a Christmas trees, but eats some poke. They need to finish the Baron, but the core's a little scattered. Warble will make his way back in. Bomi did kill Shen, but they bought enough time as Shelby's come back. He's taking out Lee Sin. He'll get Chenny. Warble will be able to pick up Robo. Partu's not long for this world either as he headbutts Shelby away. And Warble on that passive Night Hunter chasing down Robo. That's another kill as Avant answer at 4 for 1. And maybe it's their turn to Baron spawn.
Yeah, it might be their turn. I don't know whether they'll make a similar call, but they do. 30 seconds on the teleport with the Silver Bolt. Should be able to chunk this one out. And that was just miscommunication after a very good call of fight in Baron. They made the call to fight again, whereas I think they could have just stayed on the Baron, and that will cost them Avant being able to pick it up.
Yeah, costing them a Baron is not good for the mid-game team and Sudden Fear. Let's watch this again.
Yeah, so you see that they've got Baron at half health, and Chris could have just honestly walked towards the back of the pit and allowed Robo to go onto Warble because he was the threat. Porky's not really a threat at this part of the game, but instead no one hard engages onto Robo. Shelby gets into the back line, and Warble, because of that passive, as you said, the increased movement speed when you're running towards someone, you can see just having a lot of effect, and Warble able to hunt them down.
He had red buff for just long enough to chase those kills as well, which was pretty gross. The Dragon back up in 40 seconds as Avant leaked themselves ahead in gold by about 2,000, but they're the ones, like we keep saying, that do have the slightly better late game scaling.
Yeah, they certainly do. You know, maybe that was the last roll of the dice coming out of Sudden Fear. It is only 26 minutes into the game. They might have another window, but right now with the waves in their favor, you would think that Avant will continue to pressure through and just deny resources away from the carries.
Yeah, and you can see Porky still in the top half. Warble actually happy to split push with the Baron buff again, and we saw Avant setting up for this 1-3-1 earlier. It prompted Sudden Fear to engage them, but it's going to be a bit trickier to do so now with the Baron buff on Avant.
Yeah, I don't even know whether they have to split push. You know, they can just continue to shove down as a group. They've got good poke under the turret with Kensey. Warble's range isn't horrendous as an AD carry, so he's going to be able to push through there, and they have the Baron buff, the all-important ability to be able to shove in and take these turrets.
Dragon is back alive, but they'd rather pressure turrets with their Baron. I like the call here coming in for Avant. Porky again, tying up Robo Center in the top lane. He can join whenever he likes with either his teleport or his ultimate. He's going to need both, but probably only going to have to use the ulti there. And again, Avant just happy to chill out. Shelby got vision with the Tremor Sense. Destiny has the disengage from the Giant. I've started to see a lot of this composition in the OPL, I feel like.
Yeah, we certainly have. Just being able to have the couple of threats with the Janna, backing them up, able to disengage. They decide that with the wave clear of Chris and Chenny, not going to get the turret down, so they're instead going to take it free Dragon.
Yeah, rough back, take it away. Bomi around the side trying to steal it, but can't get there in time. Warble now going to go back. Empowered Rico will help him out there, and oh, never mind. He trolled me. He's actually just going to stay around. Oh, there he is. He really trolled me. Back in the base, but doesn't buy anything just yet. Waiting on some gold.
Yeah, and Bomi has actually gone for another longsword, so probably a Hex Drinker, but he's getting ganked right now. Oh,
that's
Shelby
not good for Bomi. Oh, Shelby now the one getting ganked. Bomi and Partu have found him out. Shelby taking quite a bit of damage. Not awfully tanky at this point, although Teleport going to come in. They're really committing to the skill, but Porky has ridden in as well. Righteous Glory pop. Q lands for Bomi. Shelby will get locked up. Chenny Boy down. He's going to chase the first kill, but they can't quite get Porky either.
What a good call to fight coming out of Sudden Fear. You know, they recognize that they have this stickiness to hold them up until the carries can arrive, and they're able to get another catch. This time when Avant have the Baron buff, and you know, that's going to mean that there's no effectiveness coming out of this. They're going to get 0 turrets.
That's true, actually. Avant have been on 3 turrets pretty much for the last 15 minutes of the game. So not cracking any of those with a Baron buff available is a loss here, although Warble, he did go back and it was a last whisper that he decided on.
Yeah, so he's going to be able to use all that Janna AD, add some, I guess, armor shred in there against the Senpai Cape and the Frozen Heart. Definitely is an appropriate pickup. You know, mathematically speaking, double Phantom Dancer gives you more prolonged damage, but that relies on you getting 3 auto attacks off on one target, and that's not what he wants to do. He wants to be weaving in and out of these fights, chunking people with the tumble and the Janna shield.
And he has been chunking people, that's for sure. 60 CS ahead now of Chenny is Warble. 3-0-0 having another good start to a Vayne game. And Avant, we're about to hit that 30-minute timer. You look up, it's about 1,500 gold ahead. This game feels quite close for a game where we feel like Avant should start taking over.
Yeah, Avant right now are definitely stronger. You see the death cap coming through. The last Whisper was a big purchase, and they're just incrementally ahead of the part of the game where their champions are also stronger. We're talking about a Victor that's level 16, nearly a Shen shield at level 16, and the Vayne at the later stage of the game. More importantly, her Q and W would be done right now. So you have to think that right now, Avant have everything in their control.
And it's just a matter, Spawn, of how do they want to close out the game. They got the Baron but couldn't get towers. Looks like we might be going back to a 1-3-1 looking formation.
Yeah, they're just sending Kenzie down there to absorb a lot of the farm. I think that it will be open fights coming through. You know, Avant are a patient team. They'll chase you through your jungle as much as you want, maybe even turret dive when they have to, but they don't really have the armor so far, so they'll look to just fight around neutrals. They've got the third dragon coming up in a couple of minutes as well, and not really much Sudden Fear can do unless they continue to find these picks.
Well, they have the tools to, but can they find the picks they need? Bomi, maybe the one actually caught out here. Shelby does spot him with the Tremor Sense, but Warble doesn't get there in time. Kenzie's still committing to the bottom side, happy to wave clear as long as he needs to. But again, playing around his team, going towards Shelby and going to hit the recall button. A Sudden Fear make a press for mid.
Yeah, you know, respecting the base race that can come through. Sudden Fear already showing that they can win one. That was against Immunity. This time around, they just get the middle lane turret, and, you know, once again, fantastic shot calling. This is something that Sudden Fear have definitely performed better in as the split has continued to go on. Their comms look much better.
They do. Very clean here, despite the disadvantages they're fighting at this point in the game. Again, still at a 1,500 gold lead for Avant and have the strength as far as their composition goes. But Sudden Fear, looking for the right things, find a turret. Can they find the fight? That's the big question.
Yeah, I think that they still need to wait on, I guess, the Void stuff as well as that last Whisper before they really pull the trigger. And a minute 30 on the Baron might be the area that they look at to try and force another one.
Looks to be our next pressure point as Warble might actually have a big enough stack in the bottom to take the tower out. Going to go down, at least take out the minions for himself. Destiny down here as well to make sure nothing goes wrong. The rest of his team coming through.
Hasn't got the QSS.
No.
Warble actually needs to be careful around Chris still. You know, Chris, he's only just ding level 15, so he's a full level behind Shelby, but Cassiopeia damage per second is off the charts.
It is completely off. As Kenzie going to clear out the rest of the waves for Warble, who is going back. Could be the QSS you mentioned. Wouldn't be particularly surprising given that we do see it. Honestly, often as a third item for Vayne. That's just how effective her passive is, but instead has a red part in the Vampiric Scepter.
Yeah, that's a really interesting choice coming through there from Warble. I honestly completely disagree with it, because if Robo ever gets a home guard gank through and is able to get on the back line, or Christmas Trees just hits a miracle ultimate, there is so many things that can go wrong with a dual threat comp. He's really right now relying on the shield coming through from Porky being used on him, which opens Kenzie up. You know, Victor doesn't have the same easy time of being able to itemize for the MR coming through there, so he's in a lot of danger as well. Both are mobile carries, and we're going to have to see whether Warble's able to make it work.
Ooh, right now, Avant, they're going to look for Baron. It's up in 10 seconds as they'll get the Rift Scuttler. Shelby does see the pink one. Shelby wants to take it away. Will now unburrow and swipe it out as Pink Bomi lands a Q.
And once again, a race down mid lane comes through, you know, waves being pushed out.
Oh, Chenny Boy now has to disengage from the mid lane though. Avant will shred the Baron quickly. Bomi lining up for a steal, but Baron is quite low.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. Chris isn't here yet. He is coming around the back right now.
Robo no teleport. Bomi has to buy some time. Shelby and Partu going to fight. Good three-man pulverize as Shelby going to run away. The Tasma pop, but Kenzie blows up Siva. Now Shelby finds Bomi. That'll be the next kill. Partu's absolutely dead as Warble gets in there for damage at Christmas Trees. A decent ult, but Warble's still chasing. Looking for the triple is the Vayne. Shelby going to flash first. We'll get the unbarred. That'll buy enough time to complete the ace, and Avant have complete control of the Rift now.
Yeah, and they just came from two split areas. They had a man of three coming through, and then Robo and Chris on the top side of the fight, and Chris just had zero effect. Wasn't able to get anywhere near the back line, and you have to say, the amount of damage that came out of that Victor to completely destroy Bomi was ridiculous. Yeah. And in the end, they're going to be able to grab the Baron.
Yeah, Baron going to die now. Avant will pick up their second of the game. And Warble 6-0-1 on this Vayne. Not doing too shabby. Going to claim the Baron buff though, will Avant. In fact, it's Warble himself that gets it.
Yeah, so able to pick that one up. They're also going for Dragon number 3. Let's take another look at that. So Bomi goes over the wall and, you know, gets zoned because he has Baron buff nearly attacking him. And they do commit on this, and all of a sudden it was Chenny going, not Bomi, that got deleted by the Victor. And with that, Chenny, there's no consistent damage.
No, Dragon does go to Avant there as well. That'll be their third of the game. Sudden Fear. The early game looked like they were poised to take 5 Dragons at around this time, but instead it's Avant that have the lead on the objective.
Yeah, so you know the first fight that Avant were really able to shove them off was the beginning of Avant's resurgence into this game. We kept saying they had the scaling coming through there and the ability to be able to take this late, and now it is late game, 35 minutes in. They've got a 6,000 gold advantage. They've got nearly a Bloodthirster on their vein and a lot of, I guess, items across the board ahead of their opponents. And right now, Sudden Fear, they kind of just have to batten down the hatches and hope it gets a little bit later where items become irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them get picks. They've made good calls in sticky situations this game, so can look to pick some people off, but the disadvantage is going further and further. And the big thing is still, Avant, this is their second Baron buff. Still haven't taken a tower in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, but Chris in trouble.
Oh, Wobble's going to find him. He's warded. Good condemn, and he actually got 3 shots.
Yeah, so 3 auto attacks coming through there from Wobble. Clean up the kill. That was really sloppy.
Oh, Kenzie maybe got out of position, gets kicked back to his team, will take the damage, and Partu actually collects the kill. Another nice pick from Sudden Fear.
Yeah, and we'll see what they want to do with it. Do they decide to push through? No, they're backing off.
They know they can't race here. Avant actually going to keep pushing in. Finally, they'll look to break the base. They take their 4th turret of the game, going to get their 5th in about 30 seconds. And that is it. They're actually broken the base. Avant get what they want.
Yeah, so they're able to get in there. Only cost them, wow.
Shelby caught? No, Wobble actually going to catch Robo instead. Damage is massive. Porcupine's in. Jelly Boy barely gets away from under that taunt, but still there with the unburrow is Shelby. He's getting low though, his old Rek'Sai. And now Wobble has to kite away Party, but the true damage too much here as Wobble's firing at whoever he can see. Christmas Trees is back though. Sudden Fear will be able to defend their inhibitor.
Yeah, so in the end, no one goes down. It's just a disengage coming through there. Inhibitor stays alive, and scrappy team fight from both teams leads to not much really happening. That's probably going to be the last they have to push with the Baron buff as well. So Sudden Fear, they lose 2 turrets, but maybe the minimum loss.
I think so, but crucially, they actually broke the base on the bottom side. So Avant, who we talked about, couldn't get turrets in the last time they got Baron. Sudden Fear finally pushed too hard in the mid lane, and that opens up the bottom side for Avant Garde.
Yeah, they were just looking for the pick that we were mentioning, and you saw that they were able to successfully get it, but because of the double teleports, not really make any use of it. We'll have to see where this game continues to go. Cassiopeia, she's fantastic late game, so not really going to be much worry coming through there. Robo Santa, he's honestly always going to be useful. The build that Bomi has gone, he's useful as well. He's going for a more, you know, he's got legitimate one-shot coming through onto either Warble or Kensti with the combo, and we'll have to see if he's able to make it work. Yeah,
even a mini exhaust there on the challenging smite, so I like what Bomi's going for as well. Still trying to be relevant as we get towards the mid-game. Party wants really far in, but Shelby going to come over there with a Void Rush. Maybe caught out of position, though. Actually, it's Shelby now that has to be careful, but Warble just pops in the ulti as Bomi's going to kick him away. Christmas Tree's looking in, has already used his ultimate, though. Base of the mountain down. Party's going to headbutt away, but the taunt lands. Christmas Trees will die to Shelby. Party's going to fall next, and Sudden Fear lose 3 already as Chenny Boy dies as well.
Yeah, able to get Kensti onto the back line. Robo's dead.
Goodbye. 1 auto and a death ray after that power transfer. You can see the mobility, the damage, the Victor. He's got it all on Avant. That is too far ahead as they break the bottom inhibitor.
Yeah, and they're going to push in, win the game off that. Not much a Pink Bomi can really do. Avant keep their hopes a third alive with a very convincing win in game number 1. You know, Sudden Fear, good early game, but Avant just too much.
And it just feels like the story of Sudden Fear, but Avant Garde do keep the 3rd place dream alive for now. A nice game to close out their season. We've talked about how good they've looked, especially towards the mid and late game. Maybe a shaky start, but a strong finish from Avant.
Yeah, it certainly was. You know, you have to compliment both teams. Avant understood their composition, knew what they had to do to drag it late. They made the right calls. They got caught out a couple of times, but that was more credit to Sudden Fear. Some heads-up shot calling, really getting themselves in position to make those picks happen.
But you want to talk about shot calling. I feel like Avant just closed out the game well, even though they took their time, you know, not getting structures when they had the first Baron, being very slow and patient about how they were playing the game. They just didn't want to make too many mistakes, and by the end of that game, it felt like they had complete control.
Yeah, I agree with you. They played waiting for Sudden Fear to make mistakes, and you know, that actually makes me a little bit nervous, because against Legacy, against Chiefs, they're the 2 teams they have the chance to be able to go up against. Those teams aren't going to make the mistakes.
No, not at all. So we'll see how Avant do on playoffs, but we're going to get a bit more on the game. But first, let's hear a little bit more from Avant Garde.
Actually, no.
What's the call?
Go, no.
Go, listen, go, listen.
Siva. Burst
Listen's in the pit, listen's in the pit.
I got him
Finish off.
Molting. Peel back. Go,
back.
lead.
I see
Alistair. Finish Katsio.
Gensi, play aggressive. I have
Flash Q. Nice. Knock him out, He's slowed. Shields on Vayne.
Knock him out.
Talisman's on cooldown. Finish him up. Knock him up.
Flying him.
Knock up in one. Push mid.
Right, it's good mid.
It's fantastic to hear from Avant Garde there, just really calling out those fights, making sure that they have their eyes on the prize, picking up exactly what fight they needed to win. And look, the early game didn't necessarily go the greatest there for Avant. Pink Bomi able to get around that jungle quite nicely, but ended up sort of grinding the stone down and taking the victory in the end.
Yeah, so a lot of early pressure from this Sudden Fear lineup. We saw it very evident in Pink Bomi doing what he does best on that Lee Sin, and that is finding kills or trying find semblances of kills wherever he could. Didn't work out because once the game hit that skirmish mark in it, the Vayne started to reign supreme.
Yeah, and sort of this Vayne just 3-0 at the beginning of the game, farming up a Storm, really Warble going completely off, and Immortal on the Vayne now. 2 times picked, not once dead. So fantastically well played by this Vayne player. But we have some more questions, Rusty. Of course, you guys sent through your questions using that hashtag IamOPL, and we're here to answer them. So let's get the first one up here and let's cycle through. So, your Aussies streamers, interesting. Rugby League or Rugby Union, which is best?
Contentious question.
Peace, not beef. Is it a contentious question?
Yeah,
because I personally don't watch either of them.
Well, so what would your answer be?
I like League, so I'm going to go with League.
Now, I'm actually an AFL and basketball player, so this question is really difficult for me to give a straight answer.
From Queensland and you play AFL? Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
I'm from Melbourne, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
So in saying that, if I had to choose, I would go Rugby League, and I am a Queenslander, so that'd be it.
Okay, well, let's get our next question. Congratulations, of course, for your mouse pad there. Of course, everyone that did submit a question going to grab that mouse pad if they manage to get it on the show. So where do you see the OPL competitive scene in 5 years compared to the skill and following of the LCS? Says Real Elf Fat 01.
Yeah, now it's a very difficult question to predict what is going to happen in the next 5 years. I'm assuming that our scene is going to continue to grow and become better and better to the point where we don't even compare to the LCS because we are our own thing. I want us to develop our own style of meta, style of play where we are really strong and grow individually to best them.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. And once you get to that point, once we have the lineage behind us, of course, 5 years is a long time. We've only been here for about a year and a half now. So, of course, there is lots of things that we may not necessarily have predicted just yet. It's a fantastic question, but honestly, I have no idea. I'm just hoping that we can create our own style, like you're saying.
Yeah, the more the better, of course, because we want to be as good as we can.
Exactly. So let's move on to our third question here. Rusty, what was the biggest challenge getting to where you are today? By TY Fusion.
Learning to talk as loud as Atlas. To put it simply, of course.
Did you actually learn that? Or?
I have to train myself. It's like altitude training or something. In saying that, no, the hardest challenge was, of course, learning everything about the game. I spent a few years as a pro prior to actually becoming a caster. And by sheer force of will, actually applying to be a caster, I found myself here. So it was very hard to learn how to translate what I knew as a pro to becoming this caster and actually talking about it, not just thinking of it.
Yeah, and learning things other than the mid lane there as well, Rusty, where you were definitely proficient at, but now, of course, just a master of everything. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we do have Rosie from Sin Gaming standing alongside with Pace Your Time and Spawn, so let's throw it